The person who gets the most done has the least excuses.
Welcome to the Millionaire Woman Show, where we'll be discussing leadership, business, human potential, inspiring you to live rich from the inside out. Unlock your creativity, stretch out of your comfort zone, break through your barriers, take inspired action, and achieve epic results. Now here's your host, 3-time best-selling author, speaker, and certified executive coach, Debra Kasowski.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Millionaire Woman Show. I'm your host, Debra Kasowski, and I am super excited that you are here. Today, we are talking about blowing off steam, boulder holders, and breakthroughs. You've got it. So when I talk about blowing off steam, I want you to think about how many times you found yourself in a stressful situation that you might have bottled it up and it has exploded and come across in a way that you didn't intend it because you didn't deal with it at the time. Well, there's some people who use that blowing off steam or venting per se as a way to release those strong emotions in the moment. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you today about this venting behavior, this blowing off steam, there are different camps that exist in this. Some say it's great to vent, and some say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Find different ways to cope. And I'm going to touch on a little bit of both, because blowing off steam means you're letting off some of the steam so that you could carry on, put yourself in an equilibrium, and really be able to get back to focusing on what you do best. So here's the thing when it comes to venting. First, I want to talk about venting versus complaining. So venting is really about, letting go of that strong emotion, having that release, letting it go. And, it feels really good at the moment. Complaining is more of a passive place. It's something that you complain about the situation and you wallow in it. It's a misfortune and you're not taking any steps forward. Where with venting, often what happens if people are in a similar circumstance, they can come up with some solutions, which I refer to as the breakthroughs. So blowing off steam, the boulder holders, and breakthroughs. And I'm sure you're wondering, what the heck are boulder holders? So let me talk a little bit more about venting, and then we'll get to the boulder holders, and you'll be like, I get it. So when it comes with the venting, so the good things about venting is you're being able to really step into the moment, release what you need to, you feel like you're in a safe place and you are sharing this with an individual. It makes you feel better for the in term. Also, venting allows you to externalize instead of keeping it in your head and having this mindset loop that you replay the story over and over in your mind. So, and we don't want you to do that. And we don't want you to bottle up those emotions. Because when we bottle up emotions, what can eventually be happening is that you're going to release those emotions in an inopportune moment. It could be in front of a family member. It could be in front of your employees. It could be in front of a customer, God forbid, and explode with emotion for untapped, unresolved anger and frustration. And that's not what you want to do, because that's clearly you weren't able to express yourself at the time. So now you're finding a different way to do that. And we want to prevent those occurrences from happening. And often when people do that, you know that there's an underlying event or situation that has gone on that they're not expressing to you. I remember one time I had someone really get riled up. And I had asked to pull her aside and she's like, just a moment. And I was just like, whoa, take a step back, just breathe. And as soon as I sat down with this individual, I said, okay, what you're focused on right now, what you're irritated right now has nothing to do with what we're going to discuss here. Tell me what's going on. Then I just watched her shoulders drop and she expressed her concerns and the things that were going on for her personally. So when things occur for people, you need to be able to allow them to have that vulnerability in that safe space and being able to recognize that sometimes those situations that come up where people are not behaving as they normally would, there is something else going on. So with venting, that blowing off steam, you're releasing that pent up thoughts. Make sure that you find different ways to let that out. Many different ways to blow off steam. So some people will put on a timer, allow themselves to rant as long as they can for like 2-3 minutes. And when they're done, it's done. Other people, they're going to journal it out. They're going to write whatever they want and they might burn it, or they're going to put it in the shredder, because it's only for them to have that release. Some people will go for a run, or they go to the boxing match, go punch a boxing bag or something, to really let it out where their frustration is. So you want to use something constructive versus destructive in order to deal with those stressors. Many people, deal with stress in a different way, and how one person handles stress is very different than another. So we need to be respectful of where a person's at and how we can help them move through with grace and dignity. And venting, the bad things about venting is venting can become a habit. And what happens is when it becomes a habit, it can also be addictive. Because when you're a person who's continuously venting, continuously frustrated, and sharing the same story over and over, you're actually doing some damage to yourself. See, when people complain every day, do you know what happens to their body? Well, there's a release of cortisol, the stress hormone. It's going to impair the immune system. And your immune system is always working there to, keep you safe and keep you healthy. But when we have high levels of stress hormone, you're leading to high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, even obesity, if we're looking at ways that we're not coping effectively. So you want to be careful not to be venting every day or putting yourself into that high place of stress. Some people will start practicing mindfulness and meditation and prayer, or being able to go for a walk in nature where they can release their stress in many different ways. So when it comes to venting, you have to be careful, because venting can have many positive aspects. In the fact, when you're venting with a group or an outsider, they can often be able to see things from a different perspective, being able to offer you that. And if you're venting, hopefully you're venting to someone who might be able to work with you in finding a solution, that breakthrough. But what happens is people vent thinking that they're actually bonding with others, spilling it out. And if you do that too often, you're going to find that people might start avoiding you. Seriously, they might start avoiding you because they don't want to be pulled into drama. They don't want to have the extras that you've handed over, the boulder. And here we go with the boulder holders that I told you about. I knew I wanted to keep you intrigued. So those boulder holders. So imagine the venting session. What the content of that venting is a boulder. And we feel good, really good in the moment when we're releasing it, but we're actually passing that boulder, which we can barely hang on to another person to hold it for us. That's why we feel so much lighter when we release it. And the person, the boulder holder, can either take it on, and some people, it triggers that same emotion in them when they get your boulder, or they just set it down or drop it because it's so heavy and they're like, I'm not going to internalize this. I'm not going to own any of this. This is their stuff. And when they let it go, they don't hold this boulder, and they're no longer a boulder holder, and they know that it's your stuff to deal with, or you unloaded it to them, but they don't have to keep it. Because what happens to those people who are holding that boulder, that weight is now on them. And then they're going to go into their next interaction, next conversation, and they're going to want to pass over the boulder too. And suddenly we have this domino effect of negativity, of ranting. And even though the person who's holding the boulder doesn't understand why they're upset, but they're carrying this emotion and they're charged and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe what she shared with me. And then they go on to something else that's going to irritate them. And it really had nothing to do with that boulder holder. They were triggered by the negativity, and they carried the emotion with them into their next interaction and relationship. And if you do that too often, you're going to lose or damage relationships, because people don't want to carry your boulder. They don't want to be able to be stuck with this heaviness, this negative energy that does not allow them to move forward. So whether you are within your family, within your organization that you're leading, or even with your employees in your business or customers, we want to keep the environment at top customer service. We want to keep the environment so people feel safe to be there, to be able to share who they are, let them interact, and really bring out the best in each other. So when you are thinking of needing to vent, and not saying that it's not healthy, but making sure you're venting to someone who will help you, not to just keep passing it around. So stress is very much like the common cold, right? It's contagious. You can spread it to other people. You're stressed out, you can pass that stress out by stressing to another story. And then we have these negative camps forming where people are negatively charged and they don't even know why. And all it takes is one or two people to start sharing negativity. Oh, you know about this? Yeah, they did this. And then it just carries on. So blowing off steam, doing it in a healthy way, is making sure that you are brainstorming, passing the boulder and putting it in the middle for people to eye and observe and get some perspective and say, you know what? I think I got a solution for this. What can I do? That's the question to be asking. I need you to be curious. I need you to be inquisitive in what can we do together to resolve how you're feeling? Because here's the thing when it comes to breakthroughs, when it comes to negative situations. What I've learned is that we got to be able to appreciate that this person has this vent. And I like a vent versus a complaint, because people can complain, but they're not doing anything about it. With venting and complaining, the individual has an ideal of how they would have liked a situation or an interaction to occur. They have this vision. So if they have a vision, that's where I want to dive in as a leader or a business owner or someone in my family. I'm going to dive in and say, hey, you obviously have a picture of a better future. You have a best case scenario. Tell me more. What would that look like? And then when we see that scenario, then we say, okay, so what can we do about this? Do we have to notify someone? Do we have to change business practices? Do we have to, communicate? That communication is huge. Or do we need to sit down and just have a conversation with another party to clarify possible miscommunication? Because often where these situations come up, there's miscommunication or there's missing pieces. And we want to be able to clearly articulate our wants, our needs, and desires. But when they come across as a vent or a rant, a matter of blowing off steam, sometimes it can come across as a lot of rambling. And I know none of you have done that, right? I'm pointing at my own finger at myself here, because I think we've all been there. And you don't want to pass your boulder, that vent, over to another person for them to hang on to unless you know that they can set it down. Some people are very much triggered and they want to be there for you. They want to be able to support you. But if you are one of those people who continually need to vent, I really recommend doing the journaling route or speaking directly to a person you know who can best support you in making the change. Very, very powerful to be able to do that. This is where the boulder holders feel release. They feel that they can support their colleagues, they support their family member, they support the person in their organization, and they feel good walking away from that conversation with you. What can we do together? Is there a solution? That breakthrough. And when we hit breakthrough, that's when the power comes into place. We feel empowered. We feel like we did something about a situation where we felt powerless. So let's move from that powerless state to a state of being empowered, because you have a choice every single day. Whenever you feel powerless, the question is, what can I do about this situation? And even though people think that there's nothing that can be done, ask yourself, am I asking the right person? Is it the right timing to be making that ask? Is it who, when, where, and where is it that I need the change to be? If you can set up the changes and have a really great explanation for your rationale, people are going to want to listen to that. And then it'd be simple and you'd be like, oh, so why was I so worked up about that? And when you get worked up about something, I want you to just do some self-reflection and say, okay, what triggered me? Did I take something personally that I didn't need to? Did I take on the responsibility of someone else's behavior? Did I just react versus step back and respond to a situation? We all face situations all the time. And it's a matter of the meaning we attach to the event, of whether or not we're going to let it impact us. So it's very powerful to put yourself in the state of, I'm empowered. I can do something about this. I'm going to talk to the right person. I'm going to communicate to the right person about what happened, provide the situation, give some background, what your suggestions would be. What is that? What are the recommendations based on your perception? And have an open dialogue, open up the conversation to what is now possible. Where can we go with this? So instead of just blowing off steam into the air, getting frustrated and, increasing that stress hormone, think of what you can do constructively. Like I said, give yourself some time to vent. Put on a timer and say, okay, I got 5 minutes, blow it off and go back to what you're doing. Other things is change activities. By changing activities, you can put your focus on what you want, that feeling you want to experience. Journal it out. I highly recommend journaling because it's the best way to get things out of your head, tangible on paper, and it's something to work with. Otherwise, you have it circulating in your head in this mental loop, and you get caught yourself in a cycle that sometimes it's hard for you to get out of. So let's empower you to take the next steps. Blow off the steam, release it where it needs to be released. Pay attention to your boulder holder, making sure that they can set that boulder down and not accept it as their own. And find breakthroughs to get those situations in line, because you obviously know things that could be better. And what is even better than better is knowing that you can move into the next situation the next day with a clean slate, and you can show up even better than the day before, because you are going to choose to respond versus react. And you're going to use a constructive way to move through the stress, and a constructive way to find breakthroughs that can make a big difference in how you show up in the world and the work that you do. Thank you for joining me. I'm Debra Kasowski. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, or if you're listening on iTunes, go over to the Millionaire Woman Show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. Subscribe, rate, and review, because that's how people find out about this show. And I want you to comment below if you are here on YouTube or wherever you are listening or watching this, to really share this with people who could benefit from this. Because I know that, we're in a state of constant change and constant levels of stress. Again, it's however the individual takes it in. You can also, please go over to my website. I have a free gift there for you called Making Habits Stick, so that you can build focus and consistency into the goals you've set for yourself and make them a reality. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And my wish for you, as always, go out and make today great. Thanks, everyone.